I have a life now. Who needs to make silly Sonic videos? I'm free! Oh. Oh well, okay, back to work. Hey guys, it's the Lyoko Gem, and well, I'm back for round 2 of the Sonic Forces story analysis, so I'm just going to jump right into it. So now that we've talked about the world itself, what's next? Well, sit down, get comfy, and be prepared, because I'm going to teach you what it takes to be infinite. First off, I want to say that it's very clear that Infinite was originally meant to be Eggman's creation in one draft of the story, but then got changed to, well, being what he is today. The only problem is they didn't do a good job at cleaning that up. I honestly believe after that they did a version where he was more like his theme song before we finally ended up on the final version, but that's just me. Anyways, here's the analysis on the Infinites that we did get. Before he was Infinite, he was the nameless leader of Jackal Squad. Whether or not the title of the Ultimate Mercenary is self-imposed or he actually earned it, Infinite definitely had some skills to boot, which can be seen when leaping atop the pillars in episode Shadow, or his ability to lead Jackal Squad. In fact, the sword he displays in Rise of Infinite is likely not cosmetic and suggests his skill in the blade as well. It's hard to pinpoint his relationship with the rest of Jackal Squad, but judging by the way they interact and his reaction to Shadow killing them, I'm going to guess it was at least somewhat positive. Before Shadow, Infinite is a character who probably hasn't seen defeat before, which is why he has a huge ego and a superiority complex to boot. Jackal Squad had only known victory before that was snuffed out by Shadow, and left Infinite on edge. But of course, Infinite wanted more than simple victories. As seen in Rise of Infinite, he wanted a world of his own in carnage and destruction, which would be granted to him by working with Dr. Eggman. And that of course comes from Jackals being generally associated with death in different mythologies. When Infinite lost to Shadow, he lost everything and had a major breakdown. He wanted nothing more than to get back at Shadow for doing that to him. And I'll admit, that actually is kinda sad. It destroyed his self-esteem and gave him an inferiority complex to boot. When he got the ruby, things changed. He was strong again and had the power to take on anybody. Because of that, he became entirely arrogant and cocky. But the biggest change in Infinite was the thing that the ruby always does, and that was making him dependent on the thing. Infinite believed in the power of the Phantom Ruby so much that his identity and that of the Phantom Ruby became one, and because of this codependence, it's what truly made him lose in the end. Another thing to note on Infinite is the mask. What exactly is the mask? I feel like the mask is more than a cosmetic piece. The reason I say that is because of the fact that the mask glows when Infinite uses the ruby. Personally, I think that the mask is an inhibitor of some sort, to kind of keep the ruby's power from corrupting the mind and the body. But that's just me. But with that said, let's get to the big topic, the Phantom Ruby. Well, for starters, hey everybody, it's the Lyoko Gem, and welcome to Gem Theory. Did you know the Phantom Ruby is not a ruby at all? Actually, it's a psychedelic rock candy from Silver's future that would make you high. That's right, some pranksters from Silver's future used a time machine and buried it under Angel Island as a prank. The only problem is that when it melded with the chaos energy of the island, it got all powerful and became the Phantom Ruby that we know today. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. No, but for real, here's what the Phantom Ruby is. The Phantom Ruby, as explained in the game, is capable of changing someone's visual and depth perception and casts illusions on them that can become true to the reality of the person the ruby or a user of the ruby wishes to affect. With the description down, let's look at some of the abilities that the ruby possesses. First, let's talk about the ones that Infinite had. Infinite is capable of all the illusionary abilities that one can have, but there's also more. For starters, Infinite has been shown to be capable of firing lasers, balls of energy, and his illusionary cubes. He can fly and has enhanced speed. He's able to manipulate gravity and teleport. Any of the other powers, like the doubles or long boys, fall into the whole illusionary deal. But we can assume that all of these abilities are not originally infinite, but come from that of the Ruby. In fact, the fact that the clones are reportedly as strong as the originals, but are taken down so easily in the final fight, leads me to believe that the Ruby's powers are indeed limited to a certain degree, and the more you use it, the more its powers get strained, explaining why the clones went down so easily. Then we've got the abilities exhibited in Mania. The Ruby was capable of transforming the Egg Robos into the Hard-Boiled Heavies, as well as teleporting others and creating dimensional rifts, as seen in Titanic Monarch in the final boss area. And of course there was null space between both games, which I'm about to talk about, but first let's talk about the Phantom Ruby prototypes. So to explain, here's what happened to the Phantom Ruby after Mania. When it went through the dimensional rift with Sonic at the end of the game, it decided to be awfully convenient and land right outside of Eggman's base. When he got it, he decided to rebuild the Phantom Ruby. Because of that, he built several prototypes until he finally made the final version, which he gave to Infinite, and of course eventually uses in the final battle as the Mega Death Egg robot. The Phantom Ruby prototypes only react to the DNA of the one that triggered it, and because of that, I believe that the 5 villains that Eggman had used prototypes on, with the exception of Chaos where I believe he got the DNA from the Master Emerald, had some sort of contact with the prototypes, and why they're the ones that Infinite has been cloning. Heck, that would even explain why the copies of Infinite didn't appear until after he was defeated. At least that's my explanation of why he made clones only of those characters. That's just a theory, of course. But with the Phantom Ruby prototypes out of the way, let's finally talk about null space. Now, Eggman describes null space as a closed-off space of complete nothingness. Now, this space appears in both Forces and Mania, because personally, I think that the final location in Mania is null space. So, yeah. So in Mania and Forces, we can see that it has the same color scheme with the endless nothing, and that's about it. In Forces, we see that it's only the cubes that they have and they're running along. In Mania, we see a floor with some of the Eggman-themed light posts. Not only that, but both levels have cut content in them. For Mania, it's not too much. According to Tetrabit Gaming and his video about lost things in Mania, which will be linked below, a slope can be found, suggesting it was a full level, maybe in the vein of Dream Dance in Sonic After the Sequel, or something along those lines. In Forces, it's basically the same as the level usually is, just with obstacles that have Infinite's red cubes. Sonic says this line as well.
Prison that goes on forever, huh? At least getting sent here taught me something. Nothing beats realizing that you're not alone.
So my guess is that null space was also meant to be something different originally, but then also changed again. However, it is also used in the final boss for Forces during the final portion of the boss fight. Eggman sends us there for the final fight. And then there's that one concept art card depicting Infinite in null space. And my guess is that it's either a super secret final boss that we'll get later on as DLC, or he was originally going to be the final boss, or maybe Infinite would have followed us into null space and we would have fought him. Something along those lines. Null space is literally nothing though. Whatever it was originally for, we don't know, but it was likely a full level in both Mania and Forces, but got cut. Personally, I believe that the Phantom Ruby was formed during Generations, by the residual time energy left by the Time Eater, and the chaos energy left by the 2 Supersonics condensing into the Phantom Ruby. Because of this, the thing is kinda omnipresent and has always existed, but also hasn't. And well, it decided to exist on Angel Island in Classic Sonic's dimension. And it's always existed, but also didn't, and when Eggman and Tails picked up on the energy and rushed to Angel Island, that's when it decided to exist. If that makes any sense. But wait, If Eggman was using Infinite's Ruby, which is stated to be a final version of the Ruby, meaning that he created it, where is the real Ruby? Is this truly the end of the Phantom Ruby saga? We're almost done with the analysis, 2 more parts to go. First, let's talk about this line.
Cheer up, Tails. I'm sure we'll run into him again.
My initial reaction to that line was,
Oh no!
and honestly, it still is. I don't want to see Classic Sonic again outside of Mania 2 for a few years. By a few years, I mean at least 10. But is it a possibility we'll be seeing Classic Sonic in a modern game soon? Honestly, maybe, especially if they decide to continue the Phantom Ruby saga. Which brings me to my final topic for this analysis. Will there be a direct continuation to Sonic Forces? It depends on if they want to continue what they've started with the Phantom Ruby. Eggman still has the real Ruby, so they definitely have a starting point if they want to continue the story of the Phantom Ruby. Not only this, but when you beat the game, there's a 99.99% of the world saved. There's still a 0.01% that could be picked up upon in a sequel. Only time will tell. And here's the thing. People say that Sonic stopped doing direct continuations of stories in 2005, right? But that's wrong. What about the connection between Colors and Generations, or even more recently, Mania and Forces? There's a chance that these stories of Mania and Forces could continue on later down the line, but I can't say anything for sure since I don't work at Sega. But wow, that was long. I did as much as I could to analyze the game. Did I do a good job? Was there anything that I missed? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks so much for watching. I want to give a very big thank you to a YouTuber called Gothic Sorcerer for their Sonic Forces footage that is seen in most of this and the last part of the video, and my good friend TMN Ultimo for the Eggman Empire Fortress level footage. Links to both of their channels are in the description below, along with my social media if you want more of the Lyoko Gem on Tumblr, Twitter, and Discord, all linked below. With all of that being said, this has been the Lyoko Gem. I will warp in out.